ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಗ ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತೊಗೊಳತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಓಕೆ, ಇವಾಗ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಆಚಾರ್ಯ ಹೋಗಿ ಲೈವ್ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಗ. ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಗ ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತೊಗೊಳತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಆಚಾರ್ಯ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಆಚಾರ್ಯ ಹೋಗಿ ಲೈವ್ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಗ. ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ
ಲೈವ್ ಬಂದಂಗಿಲ್ಲ
ಆಚಾರ್ಯ. ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಈ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ನೀವು ಲೈವ್ ನೀವು ಇದ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಾನು ಈ ಲಿಂಕ್ ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್.
ಸರಿ 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 ಓಕೆ, ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಕೃಷ್ಣಾಯ ವಾಸುದೇವಾಯ ಹರಯೇ ಪರಮಾತ್ಮನೆ ಪ್ರಣತ ಕ್ಲೇಶನಾಶಾಯ ಗೋವಿಂದಾಯ ನಮೋ ನಮಃ. ಅರ್ಥಿಕಲ್ಪಿತ ಕಲ್ಪೋಯಂ ಪ್ರತ್ಯರ್ಥಿ ಗಜಕೇಸರಿ ವ್ಯಾಸತೀರ್ಥ ಗುರು ಭೂಯಾದ್ ಅಸ್ಮದಿಷ್ಟಾರ್ಥ ಸಿದ್ಧಯೇ. ತಪಸ್ವಾಧ್ಯಾಯ ಶುಶ್ರೂಷಾ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪೂಜಾ ರತಂ ಮುನಿಂ ವಿಶ್ವೇಶ ವಿಷ್ಟದಂ ವಂದೇ ಪರಿವ್ರಾಟ್ ಚಕ್ರವರ್ತಿನಂ. ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಸದ್ಭಕ್ತರಿಗೆ ದೀಪಾವಳಿ ಹಬ್ಬದ ಶುಭ ಕಾಮನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೋರ್ತಾ, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಶವ ತಾಡಿಪತ್ರಿರವರ ವಿಷಯ ಈ ದುರ್ಯೋಧನ ಏನೊಂದು ಯುದ್ಧದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಆ ಕೌರವರ ಮತ್ತು ಪಾಂಡವರ ಸೈನ್ಯ ಎದುರು ಬದಲಾಗಿ ನಿಂತಿದೆ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಏನು ದುರ್ಯೋಧನನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಪಾಂಡವರ ಸೈನ್ಯವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಡು ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ದುಗುಡ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲದೇನೆ ಅವನು ತನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೈನ್ಯವನ್ನು ತಾನು ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಪಾಂಡವರ ಸೈನ್ಯವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆಗೆ ಮೀರಿ ಆ ಒಂದು ಸೈನ್ಯ ಸಂಗ್ರಹ, ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲದೇನೆ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಪಾಂಡವರಿಗಾಗಿಯೇನೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಣತ್ಯಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಿದ್ಧರಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸನ್ನದ್ಧರಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಭೀಮನಿಂದ ರಕ್ಷಿತವಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತ ಒಂದು ಪಡೆಯನ್ನ ಕಂಡು ಅವನಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡುಕ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ತನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ, ತನ್ನ ಪಡೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ, ತನ್ನ ಸೇನಾಧಿಪತಿಗಳಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ದ್ರೋಣರ ಮೇಲೆಯೇನೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಅಪನಂಬಿಕೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅವನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ನೇರ ದ್ರೋಣಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಸಮೀಪಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ತನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಏನೊಂದು ಅಭಿಲಾಷೆಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ, ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಒಂದು ದುಗುಡ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಒಂದು ರೂಪಾಂತರದಿಂದ ಅವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವನು ಅವರ ಮುಂದೆ ಇಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ದುಗುಡಗಳಿತ್ತು, ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಡತೆಯನ್ನ ತೋರಿದ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಶವ ತಾಡಿಪತ್ರಿಯರವರು ಮಾತನಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯವಾಗಿದೆ. ಇಂತಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಜ್ಞಾನ ಸತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸಂಜೆಯ ಈ ಒಂದು ಮುಸುಕಿನ ಸಂಜೆಯ ಹೊತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯನ್ನ ಹೊಡೆದೋಡಿಸುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ದೀಪವನ್ನಿಟ್ಟು ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ದೇವಿಯನ್ನ ಆರಾಧನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾನವನ್ನ, ಒಂದು ಬೆಳಕನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಇದೇ ಹೊತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಅಜ್ಞಾನವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತನ್ನುವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯ ಮೂಲಕವಾಗಿ ಏನು ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಜ್ಞಾನದ ಸಂದೇಶವನ್ನೇನು ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಜ್ಞಾನ ಸಂದೇಶವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಪಡೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಮೂಲಕವಾಗಿ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕತ್ತಲೆಯನ್ನು, ಅಜ್ಞಾನವೆಂಬ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯನ್ನು ಪರಿಹಾರ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಶವ ತಾಡಿಪತ್ರಿಯರವರನ್ನು ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸ್ತಾ, ಈ ಕೇಶವ ತಾಡಿಪತ್ರಿಯರವರು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ.
ಹರಿ ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಅಭ್ರಮಂ ಭಂಗರಹಿತಂ ಅಜಡಂ ವಿಮಲಂ ಸದಾ ಆನಂದತೀರ್ಥಮತುಲಂ ಭಜೇ ತಾಪತ್ರಯಾಪಹಂ ಮಿಥ್ಯಾ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ದುಧ್ವಾಂತ ವಿಧ್ವಂಸನ ವಿಚಕ್ಷಣಃ ಚೈತೀರ್ಥಕತನಿರ್ಭಾಸತಾಂ ನೋ ಹೃದಂಬರೆ ಅರ್ಥಿಕಲ್ಪಿತ ಕಲ್ಪೋಯಂ ಪ್ರತ್ಯರ್ಥಿ ಗಜಕೇಸರಿ ವ್ಯಾಸತೀರ್ಥ ಗುರುರ್ಭೂಯಾದ್ ಅಸ್ಮದಿಷ್ಟಾರ್ಥ ಸಿದ್ಧಯೇ ತಪೋ ವಿದ್ಯಾ ವಿರಕ್ತ್ಯಾದಿ ಸದ್ಗುಣೋಗಾಕರಾನಹಂ ವಾದಿರಾಜ ಗುರೂನ್ ವಂದೇ ಹೈಗ್ರೀವಪದಾಶ್ರಯಾನ್ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ರಾಘವೇಂದ್ರಾಯ ಸತ್ಯಧರ್ಮರತಾಯ ಚ ಭಜತಾಂ ಕಲ್ಪವೃಕ್ಷಾಯ ನಮತಾಂ ಕಾಮಧೇನವೇ ದುರ್ವಾದಿ ಧ್ವಾಂತರವೇ ವೈಷ್ಣವೇಂದೀವರೇಂದವೇ ಶ್ರೀ ರಾಘವೇಂದ್ರ ಗುರವೇ ನಮೋ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ದಯಾಳವೇ ಆಪಾದಮೌಳಿ ಪರ್ಯಂತಂ ಗುರುಣಾಮಾಕೃತಿಂ ಸ್ಮರೇತ್ ತೇನ ವಿಘ್ನಾಃ ಪ್ರಣಶ್ಯಂತಿ ಸಿದ್ಧ್ಯಂಚ ಮನೋರಥಾಃ. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. On the occasion of Deepavali, my Shashtanga Danda Pranamas to our Vidyamatha Shri Vyasaraja Matha Peethadipatigalu, Parama Pujya Shri Vidyashisha Tirtha Shripadangalawaru, and my special thanks to the Chandrika Gurukula team consisting of Shri Vitobachar, Shri Praveen, Shri Harish Rao, Shri Manoj and others. Naraka Maraka Dwarakapati Sri Krishna is Ishtapuraka, Bhaya Nivaraka, Bhava Sutaraka, Sarva Preraka, Sarvadharaka and Moksha Karaka. On this occasion of Deepavali, I pray to such Lord Sri Krishna, who gave Geetamrita to the world through Arjuna, to prevent us all from treading Naraka Marga and guide us in Moksha Marga through the glorious philosophy of our Acharya. Gopala Krishna Papa Kupadinda Paruganisi, Jnana Deepavaliinda Mukti Sopanaverisi, Daya Palisali ಎಂದು ಹಾರೈಸುತ್ತಾ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ದೀಪಾವಳಿ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು. ಹೋದ ಸರಿ ಬಂದ that couple of questions that came last time, I'm starting from there. Srimati Mitra Bindu asked a question: how do you judge good people or bad people? People may be good or bad at different points of life. So if the people tend to do harm to the answer for this is, this is the answer. If the people tend to do harm to the society in general, they are considered as bad. And if people tend to do good to the society in general, they are considered as good. I'd like to modify the question a little bit. Instead of saying, how do you judge good people or bad people? Maybe we should say, how do you know good people or bad people? Because the step one that we have to do is note that you initially apply good or bad to actions, whether a particular act is good or bad. That's what we have to determine. So if a person indulges in bad acts most of the time or does something that's very bad to the society, then the society calls him bad. And same thing with good. If the person indulges in good acts most of the time or does something that's really very good to the society, then the society calls him good. So certainly we are all a mixture of good and bad. So let us focus at action level. Sometimes one single bad act may lead to a chain of consequential bad things. So that's why proper care need to be taken so that we always do something good. Then the step two will be, we make more effort and determine if the act is good or bad. This is to avoid rash conclusion. We don't want to make any rash conclusion. Then step three, in case of mundane things, laukika things, the authorized ones take appropriate steps for such actions. So, but in all things, whether they are mundane, laukika or paramarthika, paraprayojana, whatever we do in every action of ours, God will be the ultimate authority and ultimate judge who keeps track of everything and takes appropriate action at appropriate time. That is judgment process. So as ordinary humans, the step four will be the purpose of determining good or bad, how it will be useful for us. It is for multiple reasons: to react in an appropriate way, or to learn a lesson from that, or to make a choice in finding proper company, etc. So that is how we have to go with good or bad. Then there was another question. Vidya Avaru asked a question. Why did Duryodhana go to Dronacharya specifically after seeing the Pandava army? It's not like he had great respect for Dronacharya. Also, it was known that Dronacharya likes Arjuna the most from among his students, and Duryodhana could have gone to Bhishma as he was the general, or go to Karna for reassurance. But why did he go to Dronacharya? There are several reasons, and in fact, that forms a basis for today's lecture as well. Duryodhana knows pretty well that there are many Pandava Pakshipatis on his side. That means those who support Pandavas a lot. like Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, Krupacharya, Vidura, et al. Of course, of these, Vidura never participated in the war because Duryodhana insulted him. Of the rest, the most powerful ones are Bhishma and Dronacharya. Duryodhana already pleased Bhishmacharya by making him chief of the army. So now he has to please Dronacharya. And secondly, Karna was not there in the battlefield at all because he vowed not to fight when Bhishma was the chief of the army. So he was waiting for Bhishmacharya somehow to get out of the fight, and then only he wanted to participate. So Karna was not even there. And if Duryodhana pleases Dronacharya, then Krupacharya, who has a lot of regards for Dronacharya and regards him very highly, he will also be pleased. So it's enough to please Dronacharya now. And these are all actually minor reasons. The main reason will be Duryodhana's goal is to complain to Dronacharya about the issues he has and how Dronacharya is indirectly responsible for many of his issues now. So even if Karna were there, he would not have gone to Karna, as he has nothing to complain against Karna. He has only to complain against Dronacharya. So Duryodhana knows that Dronacharya likes Arjuna a lot, and also he is Pandava supporter. That is why he launched a string of complaints, and that's why he went to Dronacharya. Now, let us see what all went through the mind of Duryodhana as he approached Dronacharya and he started speaking these words. So the very first word he says to Dronacharya is this. So he says, Pashyitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamu Yudham Drupadaputrena Tavasishyena Dhimata. Like it looks very simple. Okay, he's saying Acharya, look at the Pandavas army, and it has been arranged by Drupada's son Drishtadyumna. This is a very simple meaning, it seems, but this has actually a lot of things hidden in there. Look at the way he's saying, in a lot of these TV series and videos and movies, they have shown very wrongly that Duryodhana, he's very, very happy about his huge army, and he says that Pandava army is nothing, but that is not at all the case. You can see here, he says Mahatim Chamum. He is calling the Pandavas army as a huge army. And he only Pandavas army is coming to his view, like in the earlier sloka, Dushtva eva, so Dushtva to Pandavani comes. So Pandavas army only is visible to him. It is looking so big. He says, Pashya yetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum. Look at this huge army of Pandavas. And the word he used, yetam. So yetam means this one. So he should have said tam. That one he should have said. He said yetam, this one. There's a thing called samipataravarti cha etado rupam. So we use the word etad or et. This word is used to denote nearby things. He is standing in Kaurava army side. He should have said that Pandava army, but he said this Pandava army. Why? Because he is showing his anxiety and panic by saying that he was feeling as if the Pandava army had come too close already, closer to him than his own army. So that kind of feeling he has. And he says, Panduputranam Mahatim Chamum, he should have said that, but he inserted Acharya in between. Acharya Sambodhana, he could have said, Pashyetam Acharya, Panduputranam Mahatim Chamum, he could have said. No, he said, Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum. Is it accidental or is it just casual? No. He wanted to kind of do kind of ironical remark to Dronacharya. You are Panduputranam Acharya. You are, for you, Panduputras are very favorite ones. We are not favorites, you are favorites. So he is saying, Panduputranam Acharya, you are Panduputras Acharya. And look at this Panduputras army. Like both are indicated. Panduputras, Pandavas army, you are Pandavas Acharya. And look at this Pandavas army. So he is saying that. And he is using three adjectives. for Drupada, for Drushtadumna, Drupada Putrena, Tavasishyena, Dhimata. And all these three are eating up his mind. They're not even casual remarks. He's saying first root cause of the fear. The chief of the army of the Pandavas is son of Drupada. And as you all know, Drupada begot a son who could kill Dronacharya. Now that son was the chief of the Pandava army and going to fight against Dronacharya. So he is indirectly hinting, so Acharya Drona, what will be your fate? So this was the resounding thought in his words. So then look at this, he was disciple of Dronacharya. That means Drushtadryumna learnt Shastra Vidya from Dronacharya so that he could kill Dronacharya. What an ironic situation. Wasn't Dronacharya aware of that? And wasn't he worried about that? Of course he was aware of that. And the funny part is, Drupada performed the yajna, begot the son to kill Dronacharya, and then he brought that boy, or rather that he came as a Yuvaka itself, and then he brings him to Dronacharya and asks him to teach Shastra Vidya. Dronacharya knows that that's what happened, and still, because of the strict adherence of the rules, whoever is eligible that comes, you have to teach him Shastra Vidya. So that was the norm those days. And Dronacharya, even though he knows that he was born to kill him, he still taught Shastra Astra Vidya to Drushtadumna. That is very ironic. So, and that's why he said, Drupada Putrena Tavasishyena. He is Drupada's son who is born to kill you, and you taught him, and he has become your Sishya, and now he is standing against you now in the army, heading that army, and is going to kill you. So what are you going to do about that? So this thing, he is kind of taunt that he is there in this word. And then he used the third adjective, Dhiman. Dhiman means Buddhiman, very smart. How smart it is! It's so funny that he wanted to kill Dronacharya, and he came to Dronacharya, and smartly he took the Shastra Vidya from him. And what happened? Either Dronacharya Buddhu he taught Shastra Vidya, Astra Vidya to him, and he is going to be killed by him. So it looks as if the skill was on the Pandava side and negligence on Kaurava side. This is what it looked like. So it was as if his side, Kaurava side number is more, 11 Akshauhinis. That side only 7 Akshauhinis. But skill, the smartness is there on their side. So he wanted to hint this. So that's what running his mind. You can make out from the words that he has used. And then here people will get a kind of a doubt that why did Dronacharya not teach Ekalavya when he came? Because Ekalavya, he was also a prince. So this may be a little bit of a diversion, or maybe it's actually not a diversion. It's probably very relevant also, because a lot of people have a wrong understanding that it was wrong on Dronacharya's part to take the thumb from Ekalavya, as you all know the story. So I'll just talk about it briefly. See, archery or the Shastra Vidya is not just some education. It is a skill that can be used to hurt people. It needs some basic discipline. Even today, gun shooting skills are taught to military personnel, police, or any defense staff, but not to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. That's why in those days, it was taught to Kshatriyas who were in the business of protecting others, and Brahmins who have the needed discipline and can maintain its discipline and form second line of defense when needed. So only Kshatriyas and Brahmanas were taught in those days. Ekalavya did not belong to any of those two categories. Ekalavya does not need to participate in any wars. As the follower of strict regimentation, Drona refused to impart the archery skills to Ekalavya. But Ekalavya had so much strong desire to learn the archery that he watched Drona teaching others by hiding and listening. So he practically stole the Astra Vidya, because Astra Mantras he has practically stolen. However, he had great Guru Bhakti and so made the statue of Drona and practiced in front of it. Drona did not want him to have the stolen Vidya and so asked for his right thumb. Some people will, they ask, he could have asked his Guru Dakshina just to practice Astra Vidya instead of asking for a thumb. But asking to stop practicing is a bigger punishment than asking for right thumb, because we tend to see it from our eyes. But Ekalavya loved his archery more than his right thumb. Even after that incident, Drona further taught him how to do the archery without right thumb as a reward for his Guru Bhakti. So the fact that Dronacharya promised Arjuna that he would make him the best archer, and so he asked for the right thumb, is God-given opportunity to prevent the Dharma Chuti. So eventually he is going to fight on the evil side. Some people ask mischievously, oh, did Drona know that Ekalavya was going to be there on the side of Jarasandha supporting Adharma? The key is this. It is the providence that did not want Ekalavya to have the improperly acquired skill, and that prompted Ekalavya to serve the evil ones like Jarasandha. What is wrong for a Kshatriya like Arjuna to be the best among archers? So that's fine for Arjuna. He wanted to be the best archer. There's nothing wrong. Ekalavya fought on the side of Jarasandha and went against Sri Krishna, and eventually, and if he fights with Krishna, what else will come out of it? Sri Krishna killed Ekalavya in one of the battles. And here one more, so the basic rule is very simple. Dharma is that which supports or upholds. Dharana dharmaha, dharakatva dharmaha. Such dharma principles may come in many ways, like man-made, which are agamapai. That means there's a transit, they come and go. Or apaurushaya, Veda-based, which is not man-made, which is just one thing, unique and permanent. So the man-made can have flaws due to the inherent flaw of man, but the apaurushaya Vedas, they are flawless. So by saying Nishada prince, we are forming hypothetical picture that Hastinapura prince and Nishada prince are of the same type. Both are princes of different kind and size, but there's a lot more to it. The Kshatriyas are also Dvijas who upheld the Veda system. Astra Vidya is based on Veda mantras, which had to be handed to the eligible ones only. There is a saying, Vibhed Alpashutad Vedo Mamayam Prachanishyati. So the Veda Abhimani Purusha fears that a non-eligible, incompetent one will damage or hurt me. So this has to be taken in figurative sense. So even in modern context, one can see the potence of that process, like the atom bombs and big weapons. It's of its kind in the wrong hands can cause a devastation. So if a Purusha has flaws, then the system made by that Purusha will have flaws. But the Apaurushaya Vedas will have no flaws. And so Dharma principles started in Vedas will also be flawless. And that's why Dronacharya and many preceptors of those times adhered to the strict process of the appropriateness of whom it has to be given. This will minimize the scope for misuse, but God's will is beyond our comprehension. The undeserving Kauravas somehow enter the system, and God will have his own way of handling it. In some cases, God wills that the evil be nipped in the bud stage, as in Ekalavya's case, and in some cases, like Duryodhana, God wills to let it become a tree and then cuts that tree. This is all dependent on Yogyata and karma of the jivas, which is not visible to us and which we tend to make false conclusions from that. So that is very important. But look at the Dronacharya, how great he is. He imparted that Astra Vidya to Drishtadyumna, even though he knows that Drishtadyumna is born to kill him. So that's important from that point of view. Now, the next verse, Duryodhana says this verse, Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. The funny part is this. he has 11 Akshauhinis and Pandavas has only 7 Akshauhinis. But Duryodhana mentions, of course, he does not list out Kauravas on his side and he does not list out Pandavas on the Pandava side because they are the fighters, main fighters. Whoever came to support them, he is listing only them. And while doing that, from Pandava army, which has only 7 Akshauhinis, he mentions 11 names there and listed 6 more. So that is Abhimanyu and Upandavas, making 17 total. And then Drushtadumna, the 18. So the totally 18 are listed from Pandava's side, but from his side, he lists only 7. That's the kind of mentality that Duryodhana exhibited. And the adjectives he used, look, he said, Shura, Maheshwasa, Bhimarjuna Samayudhi, to describe the Yodhas, the warriors on Pandava side. These are the adjectives he using. Of course, Shura he uses for his side also. That is fine, it's a common adjective. But the other 2 adjectives, Maheshwasa, great archers, he used only for Pandava side. He did not use for his side. And he used Bhimarjuna Samayudhi, equal to Bhima and Arjuna in fighting. What is the significance of this? We'll see. And like as you know, though occasionally Duryodhana mentioned Bhima and Arjuna in a very casual way, here he has a very perturbed mind. Here he is, the other side, the Pandava side, everybody are looking so frightening and they are looking equal to Bhima and Arjuna for him. This was a pinnacle of his terrified state. Earlier in a few times he was verbally discounting Bhima and Arjuna, but his hidden fears about Bhima and Arjuna, which were dormant, which were hidden, they just oozed out now. And he used the first name he mentioned is Yudhana. Yudhana is another name for Satyaki. As you all know, Satyaki, he was a great disciple of and devotee of Sri Krishna. He's a disciple, devotee, and friend of Lord Sri Krishna. And so Duryodhana had a special dislike for him. That's why he first mentioned Satyaki. Look, Satyaki is there. And the second name he mentions is Virata. And Virata, as you all know, was the husband of Kichaka's sister Sudeshna. If Kichaka were alive, the entire Virata's army would have fought on Kaurava side with Kichaka on their side as the head. So he was hinting at his misfortune here. Look, we lost one Akshauhini. So Duryodhana is telling indirectly to Dronacharya, we lost one Akshauhini. Look, Virata is fighting on their side instead of our side, and Kichka is not there. So we lost Kichka, we lost one Akshauhini Sainya, and that is the hint he is giving by mentioning the name Virata. So who was mere puppet earlier in the Kichaka's hand, now he has summoned courage to fight against Kauravas. The third name that he mentioned was Drupada. So, as you all know, Karna lost Matsya Bheda narrowly. This is another thing. The TV serials and videos they mentioned wrong. They showed wrongly that Draupadi stopped Karna from hitting the Matsya Yantra. That's not all true. The real truth is Karna goes, attempts, and he narrowly misses it. He misses it. That people didn't want to accept it, and they created this fishy version. And while creating that, they were messed up so much that they inserted these 3 verses. Nasutam, Sutam Navarami, so Sutamaham Nava. So Draupadi says, I am not going to marry a Suta. Those 3 verses they inserted, but they forgot to take other references. Even in those corrupt versions, Karna has lost that is present elsewhere. So Karna attempts the Matsyentra and loses it. Because Karna lost that, what happened? Drupada, his daughter Draupadi, married Arjuna, and now that army is standing against them. As you all know, Drona asked his disciples to bring Drupada as a prisoner. What happened? The Kauravas went with their entire army and got defeated squarely by Drupada. Even though there was a big army, even though Karna was there, all of them lost to Drupada. They returned shame-filled, Added to that, Pandavas went without any army, all just 5 Pandavas, all by themselves, and brought Drupada as prisoner. Now Drupada, who was formidable to Kaurava army once, was again out there, ready to fight. Added to that, he performed a yagas so as to beget a son, Drishtadyumna, who could kill Dronacharya. What a string of events. So one has to note the rancor, the anger, the frustration, and the mental agony in listing the characters rather than thinking that, oh, he's just some characters floating around Mahabharata casually. Duryodhana mentioned that. No, it's not a casual mention by Duryodhana. Each name, it actually signifies what was running through his mind. The next name he mentions is Drushta. So in the next verse he says Drushtaketu. So the earlier one he mentioned, these are the names he mentioned. Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhimajuna Samayuthi Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. And now he is mentioning Drushtaketus Chekitanaha Kashirajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaibyascha Narapungavaha. So the fourth name that was mentioned is Drushtaketu. So Drushtaketu he is mentioning. So actually there's one more name. Yudhano Virat. So Bhimarjuna Samayuti, Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. So Yudhana, Virata, and Drupada, 3 names there in the previous verse. And the fourth name is Dushtaketu. Dushtaketu, who is Dushtaketu? He was the son of Shishupala. Look, Shishupala was close friend of Jarasandha and Duryodhana. If he were alive, Shishupala and his army would have fought on Duryodhana's side. So he was hinting his misfortune again here. Shishupala was killed by Sri Krishna. His son was now fighting on the same side as Sri Krishna, which according to him should not happen. So Dushtaketu should have had enmity feeling towards Pandava, Sri Krishna, but he is fighting on their side. Though Shishupala is, because the Dushtaketu was not like Shishupala. Shishupala was an evil guy who supported Duryodhana, but Dushtaketu, he turned out to be a good person and he fought on Pandava's side. So this is again another misfortune that Duryodhana is mentioning here, Dushtaketu. So the next name he's mentioning is, so not only he lost Shishupala, he lost the army, the entire army of Shishupala. So that's what he mentioned. And the fifth name he mentioned was Chekitana. So Chekitana is actually, he was also like Satyaki, another Yadu warrior, Yadava warrior. So whatever applies to Satyaki, same applies to Chekitana. So Duryodhana had a lot of dislike for Chekitana, and that's why he mentioned that name. And the sixth name he mentioned was Kashiraja. Kashiraja, Bhima married his daughter Kali. Duryodhana married his another daughter. So Bhima and Duryodhana were equally related to Kashiraja. So Kashiraja, he could have just remained neutral like Balrama, but he chose to fight on Pandava's side. So this must have irked him a lot, quite a bit, because when he is equally related to Bhima and Duryodhana, why is he fighting on the side of Bhima? So this was another thing that was bothering him a lot. That's why he mentioned that name, Kashiraja. So Kashiraja Saviryavan. The 7th and 8th were Purujit and Kunti Bhoja. They were Kunti's brothers, and so fighting on her son's side. So he was mentioning, oh, we have these also that are coming with their armies and helping them. And that was also kind of bothering him a lot. The 9th name that he mentioned was Shaibya. Shaibya, he was the king of Shibi kingdom. Earlier, there was the prince of Shibi, Kotikashya. So that Kotikashya was Duryodhana's brother-in-law, Jayadratha and Kotikashya were very close friends. What happened was, during Pandava Vanavasa, Jayadratha and Kotikashya, they tried to abduct Draupadi. And Kotikashya lost his life in the hands of Pandavas. If he were alive, along with Jayadratha's army, he would have gotten Kotikashya and Shibi's kingdom's army, everything he would have gotten. Now, because of the bad incident that happened, because Kotikashya got killed, he lost the whole army, he lost the support from the Shibi kingdom, everything is lost. So this is another thing that has been mentioned here. And this, this kind of indicates how much each name, as he was mentioning, how much he was feeling the pain and kind of a torture, mental torture he was going through. That is what is indicated by each of these names. The 10th and 11th names are mentioned in the next verse. Yudhamanyuscha Vikranta Uttamaujaschcha Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadeyascha Sarvayeva Maharathaha. So the 10th and 11th names were Yudhamanyu and Uttamauja. So they were Drupada's sons and Drushtadumna's brothers. So they are also kind of bothering him, because Drushtadumna comes to the mind when he's mentioning these names also. Yudhamanyu and Uttamauja, they're brothers of Drushtadumna, so they're going to support Drushtadumna, and Drushtadumna is going to kill Dronacharya. So this was bothering him. So he was coming and telling Dronacharya, look, what are all happening to you? So this is how he was very perturbed with all his thoughts. And we'll continue with these thoughts in the next session. So I want to pause it here. This humble few words I dedicate to the feet of Lord Sri Krishna, who is Antaryami Murti of Bharatyamna Mukhya Prana Antargata, and Bharatyamna Mukhya Prana, who is Antargata Murtis for our Gurugalu, Swamigalu. So I offer this to the lotus feet of Paramatma, Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. If any questions are there, I'll answer those questions. Hare Srinivasa.
ಬಹಳ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸುಮಾರು ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಅವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಡ್ರು, ಅವರ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿತ್ವ ಏನು, ಹೀಗೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಲ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತವ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಪಾಂಡವರ ಜೊತೆ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡು ಯುದ್ಧವನ್ನ ನಡೆಸಿದರು ಹೀಗೆ ಅಂತ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಯಶಸ್ವಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ರಾಜನೀತಿಜ್ಞ, ಅವನ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಅಧರ್ಮಿಷ್ಠ ಅಂತ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು ದುರ್ಯೋಧನ, ಅವನೊಬ್ಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರಾಜನೀತಿಯನ್ನ ತಿಳಿದವನು ಕೂಡ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಪಾಂಡವರನ್ನ ಈ ಹಿಂದೆ ಸದೆಬಡಿದ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಇದೊಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವನ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ತಾನು ಈ ತನ್ನವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಪನಂಬಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಇರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ?
Yeah, the question that is asked is, Duryodhana, he is not like an ordinary person. He's very well skilled in all the strategic things, warfare and everything. So why did he not realize that, these little things, why, like they're bothering his mind, and he should have handled it pretty well. And why is he kind of becoming a victim for the small little things? So that is the question. And it's an interesting question. Why means that is one of the characteristics of a person who has that swabhimana, durabhimana. So one who is extremely self-egoistic and abhimana purvaka person, such a person cannot tolerate even a small thing going against him. For him, even small little things bothers him. And always he will be taunting the people. It is something like this. Somebody gives him $1 million, like, we see such people here in the world. Somebody gives us a $1 million, and in another occasion, he doesn't give 10 rupees. He says, look, he did not even give me 10 rupees, but he has got $1 million. But he complains, oh, he didn't give me 10 rupees. He didn't give me 10 rupees even. So this is the mentality of a person who is very egoistic. He just doesn't want anybody to do even a little harm, but he can do any amount of harm to others. So this is the mentality of an egoistic person. That is why even these little things, he is actually so perturbed, because he doesn't want even a little. For example, Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, they exhibited their full fighting skills against Pandavas, but still he constantly taunted both Bhishma and Drona. You're not fighting well, you're not fighting. They were fighting with the full strength, and they told Pandavas are not ordinary people. They are great warriors. We are fighting our best. Still, he keeps on. No, you're not fighting your best. You're not doing your best. He kept on, but it is in fact other way around. Arjuna did not show full strength. That's why Krishna, you kind of brought him to bigger strength, to show more strength. So, but Duryodhana is of the type, even a little thing he complains. That is the mentality of any egoistic person. Egoistic person, small little things bothers him. And that is why he was a very good strategist also. Even all these people, not that he didn't try, he tried to get all of them. In fact, you all know the story of Shalya. Shalya is actually, he's very, he's related to Pandavas. He was coming with a huge army to support Pandavas, and Duryodhana does you all know about the trick. He gives kind of a good atitya, good guestly honors to him, and takes good care of him, and takes a promise. He thinks that Dharmaraja, Yudhishthira is the one who is doing all that, and he says, oh, whoever is doing all this, I'll support him fully. And then he comes out and says, you promise, now we have to fight on my side. He steals the army of Shalya and his army. And he tried to say, do all these same tricks with these people also, nothing worked out, that's all. But a very small little thing bothers Duryodhana, because that is his mentality. His mentality, he cannot tolerate even 1 rupee going out against him. Even any person doing a small little act against him, he cannot tolerate. He wants 100% support, 100% things, and even then he is not satisfied. Like Dronacharya and Bhishma, they are giving 100% of their support. Even though they are Pandava Pakshapati, they are fighting on his side. Still he keeps on complaining. That is his mentality. His nature is ever complain, ever bother about small little things, and always torture his mind all the time. That's why the Ghosha Yatra and all those things that happened, Pandavas went and they were doing their Vanavasa. He could have kept happy. No, he says, oh, Pandavas happy there, let me go and torture them, mentally torture them, do the Ghosha Yatra. So that is the mentality of the Duryodhana.
ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅನಿಸಿದ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಈಗ ನೀವು ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾತು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ, ಅವನ ಮೆಂಟಾಲಿಟಿ ಹೀಗೆ ಅಂತ. ಅವನು ಅವರವರನ್ನೇ ಟಾರ್ಚರ್ ಕೊಡೋದ್ರ ಬದಲು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕುಗ್ಗಿಸೋದ್ರ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಪಾಂಡವರನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಕುಗ್ಗಿಸಿದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ಹೋದ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ನಾವು ತಗೊಂಡ್ವಿ, ಧೃತರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಒಂದು ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಕುಗ್ಗಿಸುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಯಶಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕಂಡ ಅಂತ. ಆ ತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವನು ಯಾಕೆ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ, ಅವರನ್ನ ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಈ ಕುಗ್ಗಿಸುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ? ತನ್ನ ಸೈನ್ಯವನ್ನೇ ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿ ತೋರಿಸಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಧೈರ್ಯ ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕುಸಿಬಹುದಿತ್ತು. ಈ ತರ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಈ ತರದೊಂದು ಉಪಾಯವನ್ನ ಅಂತ?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Duryodhana, instead of bringing down the mental stature of kind of bothering the people and mentally kind of tormenting his own side people, he could have played this game against Pandavas. Why did he not to play this trick and make Pandavas feel bad, or make them feel low, make them feel little depressed, or affect their mental stature? He could have played this trick against Pandavas. Why did he not do that? That is because, as Dhritarashtra did, like in Sanjay Rayabara, Dhritarashtra tries to do that kind of thing. And why can't Duryodhana do that? Very simple reason. Duryodhana, when he sees, for doing that, you must have a little bit of, ability to talk in a logical way to somebody. The moment he sees the Pandavas, his blood boils. He becomes angry. So there is no question of his talking very calmly to Pandavas and try to irritate them with words. This kind of a behavior Duryodhana could not exhibit, because the moment he sees Pandavas, his blood boils and he wants to yell out at them. He wants to punch them. He wants to kick them. He wants to. That's why during Mayadyuta what happened. So he controlled his feelings to a great extent, because he knows Shakuni is going to play the Mayadyuta. He just controlled his emotions. That's the maximum he can do. Maximum he can do is control his emotions. But talking nicely to Pandavas and trying to depress them is too much of a task for Duryodhana, because the moment he sees Pandavas, he wants to really torment them. He wants to really kick them. He wants to really bother them. That is the mentality of Duryodhana. But Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, is not as badly affected seeing the Pandavas. He can, kind of balance a little bit. And whatever the behavior that we expect of Duryodhana to do against Pandavas, that Dhritarashtra could do it. But Duryodhana could not do it, because the moment he sees Pandavas, his blood boils.
ಒಂದು ನಾನು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ ಸರ್, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಇವ್ರ ಜೊತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ತರದವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವರು ವನವಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನು ಅಜ್ಞಾತವಾಸ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಟ್ಟಾಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವನು ಭಾವಿಸಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಸೇರಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಬಹಳ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯವಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅವನು ದ್ರೋಣರ ಹತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ, ದ್ರೋಣರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಪನಂಬಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರು ಧರ್ಮ ಪಕ್ಷಪಾತಿಗಳು ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯಿಂದ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಈ ಪಾಂಡವರನ್ನ ಗೆಲ್ಲಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹಠದಿಂದ ದ್ರೋಣಾಚಾರ್ಯರ ಹತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಈ ತರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೋ, ಅಥವಾ ಭಯದಿಂದ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೋ? ಅವನಿಗೆ ಭಯವಾಯ್ತಾ ಅಥವಾ ಗೆಲ್ಲಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹಠ ಇತ್ತ?
Yeah, a very good question. So when Duryodhana went, the question is this: when Duryodhana went and spoke with Dronacharya, maybe what may be running in his mind is, after this Aranyavasa and Agnatavasa, so after all this is done, like 12 years of Aranya and 1 year of Agnatavasa, 13 years of exile, so Duryodhana would have thought, oh, they will have not big army at all, maybe at the most one Akshauhini, or at the most, that's it. They can't even have much of army. That's what he thought, because they were away on exile, so they can't get any command, any army. But when they accumulated 7 Akshauhinis, which is not really a very small number, if you take, is more than half. 11 to 7 ratio is not like 100 to 1 ratio. It's just more than half. So he was shocked. So when he spoke these words to Dronacharya, what was he thinking? Was the fear in his mind that, oh, this is too much for me, I can't handle? That kind of fear did he have? Or he wanted to somehow instigate Dronacharya, kind of tickle him, and then try to get victory somehow? Actually, it is a mixture of that. And in these words, actually, the fear is coming out. Fear was taking a bigger picture. Generally, yes, he was very much concentrating upon the tactics to win the war. But at this moment, in this particular juncture of time, the fear part was more. Of course, there was behind the fear, like you can say, maybe I'm not giving a crude number, not really a practical number, like 90% fear and 10%, maybe this will help to trigger some kind of thoughts in Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, will irritate them, and they'll fight very fiercely, and maybe the victory come to us. Maybe that hope also was lingering behind his mind. But in these words here, the fear fact, because that the crucial was paryaptam tidamesham balam bhima virakshitam. When he says that, we are going to talk about that in the next 1 or 2 sessions. There we can see the fear part took a bigger toll on him. So generally, yes, the desire to irritate Dronacharya and somehow get victory, that thought is there. But that thought was taking like in a back seat, and the fear was taking a front seat. So the fear, because the way he mentioned the names, he panic button, he pressed a panic button. He was mentioning so many names from Pandava side. So the army for 7 Akshauhinis. From 11 Akshauhinis, he mentions only 7 names. So the fear complex was taking a bigger picture, bigger toll on him. So fear was ruling him more. Of course, the other part also was there, which was kind of a desire to somehow irritate Drona and try to get a victory out of him.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದನ್ನ ಕೊನೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭೀಷ್ಮ ದ್ರೋಣಾದಿಗಳೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವರ ಅನ್ನದ ಋಣಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರ ಕೌರವರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಯ್ತು, ಸರಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಿಕ್ಕದವರೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಇವನು ಅನ್ಯಾಯ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೌರವರ ಜೊತೆ ಸೇರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಏನಿತ್ತು?
Yeah, that's a good question. Another question is, we can understand, like Bhishma and Drona, they ate the salt, that's why they fought on their side. Why so many other people why did they fight on Drona's side? I mean, Duryodhana's side. They could have fought on Pandava's side, or they could have just remained neutral. Why they fought on Duryodhana's side? Two reasons. One is so many people were afraid of Duryodhana. They could not say, I mean, the moment if they express they are willing to fight on the other side, they don't know what is going to happen to them. So the fear is one reason. The second reason, probably even more important than that, is so they were not obedient. They know that Duryodhana is wrong and everything. But Bhishma and Drona, they were fighting on their side. If they have obedience to Bhishma and Drona, then they will also fight on their side. So that is how he ended up having 11 Akshahinis, because so many people, they owed their allegiance to Bhishmacharya. They could not forsake Bhishmacharya. Bhishma is fighting, hey, we know Duryodhana is wrong. That's why Duryodhana uses Mother Tyakta Jivita. We're going to talk about it next time. So, but the reason they fought on Duryodhana's side is two reasons. One is the fear complex. The second one is they had allegiance to Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra. Even Dhritarashtra, with all his drawbacks, a lot of people, they had allegiance to Dhritarashtra as well. They know Duryodhana is bad, but whoever fought with Duryodhana fear, they were supporting Duryodhana. Others who didn't have who had Duryodhana's fear, but they more of it allegiance to Drona, Bhishma, Dhritarashtra. That is the reason they fought on their side.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಇನ್ನ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್, ಏನಾದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಯಾವ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲ ಆಚಾರ್ಯ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಚೆಕ್
Any questions are there? People can feel free to ask, and we will answer in the next session those questions as well.
ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಉತ್ತರಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಪಡೆದಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಶವ ತಾಡಿಪತ್ರಿ ಅವರು ಬಹಳ ತಾಳ್ಮೆಯಿಂದ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಒಂದು 20-30 ನಿಮಿಷ ತಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದ್ರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಬಹಳ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಜೊತೆ ನಮಗಾಗಿ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ನಮಗೆ ಶ್ರಮ ವಹಿಸಿ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಇದನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಿಮಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗುರುಕುಲ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸದ್ಭಕ್ತರ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತ ಒಂದು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇವೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ದೀಪಾವಳಿ ಆರಂಭದ ಹೊತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾತಃ ಕಾಲ, ನಮಗೆ ನರಕ ಚತುರ್ದಶಿ, ಈ ಒಂದು ದೀಪಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳಗಿ ಇನ್ನೇನು ಆ ದೀಪದ ಬೆಳಗಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಪಟಾಕಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ, ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ತಮಗೂ ಕೂಡ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ಸಮರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣ ಅರ್ಪಣಮಸ್ತು.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಆಚಾರ್ಯ, ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.